Dramily.com, unlimited drama series.
The garage smelled like motor oil and broken dreams. I cracked open another Budweiser, the third one since Amanda had gone to bed, and stared at the engine of my '98 Honda Civic, 45 years old, and this piece of junk was still more reliable than my marriage. Yeah, I know, sweetheart. Amanda's voice drifted through the thin walls from the kitchen. Her tone was different, softer, almost purring. I can't wait either. I set down my beer and listened. In 17 years of marriage, Amanda had never used that voice with me, not even during our honeymoon. Tomorrow night at the Riverside Inn, room 237? She giggled like a teenager. I'll bring the wine. My wrench slipped, scraping my knuckles against the engine block. Blood welled up, but I barely noticed. The Riverside Inn was where we'd spent our first anniversary, back when Amanda still looked at me like I mattered. Love you too, Brad. Brad, her coworker at Henderson PR. The guy with the BMW and the gym membership he never shut up about at company parties. The one who always found excuses to touch Amanda's shoulder when he talked to her. I heard her footsteps heading upstairs. The bedroom door closed with a soft click. My hands were shaking as I reached for my phone. I needed proof. I needed to know for sure before I did something stupid. The next morning, Amanda hummed while making coffee. She wore the red dress I'd bought her for Christmas, the one she claimed was too fancy for everyday wear. You're up early, she said without looking at me, and couldn't sleep. I studied her face, looking for guilt, for any sign that she felt bad about what she was planning. Nothing. Just the same polite smile she gave the mailman. I'll be late tonight. Big client presentation. At the Riverside Inn, her coffee mug froze halfway to her lips. For just a second, her mask slipped. Then she laughed. The Riverside Inn? God, no. That dump? We're meeting at the Marriott downtown. She kissed my cheek and grabbed her purse. I watched through the window as she drove away in her Lexus, the car I'd co-signed for, the payments I helped make while working overtime as an IT consultant. That's when I saw it. A receipt had fallen from her purse onto the kitchen counter. CVS Pharmacy. Yesterday's date. KY jelly and a box of Trojan condoms. We hadn't had sex in 4 months. I called in sick to work and spent the day planning. By evening, I had everything ready. A spare iPhone with GPS tracking, a telephoto lens borrowed from my neighbor who thought I was taking up birdwatching, and a plan that would either prove my paranoia or destroy my world. The Riverside Inn parking lot was half empty when I arrived at 6 p.m. I parked behind a dumpster with a clear view of the entrance and waited. Amanda's Lexus pulled up at 7:15. She checked her makeup in the rearview mirror, then walked into the lobby like she owned the place. 5 minutes later, Brad's BMW arrived. He jogged toward the entrance, bouquet of roses in one hand, bottle of champagne in the other. I took pictures of everything, the license plates, the timestamps, their faces as they embraced in the lobby window, evidence for the divorce lawyer I'd probably need. But as I sat there in the dark, watching the light come on in room 237, I realized I didn't want a divorce. I wanted something else entirely. I wanted revenge. Amanda came home at midnight, claiming the client meeting had run late and they'd all gone out for drinks afterward. She showered immediately, washing off Brad's cologne, no doubt, and fell asleep with her back to me. I lay awake until dawn, planning. The next day, I called Ray Martinez, my old boxing coach from the gym on 5th Street. Ray had taught me that the best fighters weren't the strongest or the fastest. They were the smartest. They studied their opponents, found their weaknesses, and struck when it hurt the most. Danny boy, Ray's gravelly voice boomed through the phone. Haven't heard from you in months. How's the married life treating you? Could be better, Ray. Listen, I need to ask you something. Hypothetically speaking, if someone was screwing you over, what would you do? Ray was quiet for a moment. Hypothetically, I'd make sure they regretted it, but I'd be smart about it. No sense getting yourself in trouble over someone else's stupidity. What if it was your wife? Another pause. Then I'd make sure the whole world knew what kind of person she really was. That afternoon, I drove to Amanda's office building. Henderson PR occupied the 3rd floor of a glass tower downtown. I knew the layout from company Christmas parties, the open workspace, the conference rooms, the break area where everyone gathered to gossip. I also knew their computer system. I'd set it up for them 3 years ago as a favor to Amanda, back when I thought being helpful would make her love me more. The security guard, Pete, recognized me from previous visits. Hey, Mr. Thompson, Amanda's not here right now. She's in a meeting off-site. Actually, I'm here to check on your server. Amanda mentioned you guys were having some network issues. Pete waved me through. Third floor, you know the way. I spent an hour in their server room, installing a small piece of software I'd written. Nothing illegal, just a program that would monitor email traffic and send me copies of anything containing certain keywords, like Brad, hotel, or meet me. Over the next week, I learned everything. Their plans, their inside jokes, their pet names for each other. Amanda called Brad Tiger. He called her Red because of the dress she'd worn on their first date. My dress, the one I'd bought her. They had a whole routine worked out. Amanda would tell me she was working late or meeting clients. Brad would tell his wife Jennifer that he was at the gym or playing poker with the guys. They'd meet at different hotels around the city, always paying cash, always careful not to leave a paper trail. But they weren't careful enough. On Thursday, I intercepted an email from Brad. Can't wait for tomorrow night, Red. I've got a surprise for you. Bring your appetite. Amanda's response made my stomach turn. You're terrible, Tiger. I love it. Should I pack the massage oil? Friday evening, I watched Amanda get ready for another client dinner. She spent an hour on her makeup, wore the black lingerie I'd bought her for Valentine's Day, and sprayed on enough perfume to choke a horse. Don't wait up, she said, kissing my forehead like I was her brother. This one's going to run really late. Have fun, I replied, and meant it, because I was about to have some fun of my own. I waited until her car disappeared around the corner, then grabbed my toolkit and headed for Brad's house. Jennifer's minivan was gone. She worked the night shift at the hospital, but Brad's BMW sat in the driveway like a monument to his arrogance. Custom paint job, chrome wheels, vanity plates that read closer because he thought he was hot shit at closing real estate deals. I popped the hood and went to work. Nothing that would hurt anyone. I wasn't a monster. Just a few modifications that would make his evening with my wife a little more memorable. First, I loosened the radiator cap just enough to cause a slow leak. He'd make it to the hotel, but the drive home would be interesting. Then I used a valve tool to let some air out of his rear tires. Not enough to cause a blowout, just enough to make the car pull to one side and ruin his smooth operator image. Finally, I placed a small Bluetooth speaker under his bumper, connected to an app on my phone. I'd loaded it with the most obnoxious sounds I could find. Crying babies, nails on chalkboard, and a recording of Jennifer calling his name over and over. By the time I finished, Brad and Amanda were probably already at the Marriott, pawing at each other like teenagers. Let them have their fun. The real show was just beginning. Lana Ladiers leapt until noon. She claimed she was exhausted from the client dinner, but I noticed she was walking a little funny. Guilt gnawed at my stomach, but I pushed it down. She'd made her choice. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. Your husband is a psycho. Stay away from my wife. Lana Ladiers, Lana Lady. Brad? Somehow he'd figured out it was me. I texted back. I don't know what you're talking about. Don't play dumb. I know it was you who messed with my car last night. Jennifer heard the whole thing from the speakers you planted. My blood went cold. Jennifer wasn't supposed to be there. She worked nights at the hospital. Called in sick, Brad's next text explained. She heard everything. The sounds, the speakers going off when I got home at 2 a.m., my car overheating in the driveway. She's asking questions I can't answer. Good. Let him squirm. But Amanda was getting suspicious too. She kept checking her phone, frowning at messages that made her bite her lip. During lunch, she excused herself to take a call in the bathroom. I can't talk long, I heard her whisper through the door. Danny's acting weird. I think he might know something. That evening, I suggested we go out for dinner. Amanda agreed, probably hoping to act normal and throw me off the scent. We went to Marcelli's, our usual spot, where the waitress knew our order and the owner always asked about our son Max. Max was 17 and spent most of his time in his room playing video games and avoiding family dinners. Smart kid. He'd probably figured out his parents' marriage was a joke long before I did. So, I said, cutting into my chicken parmesan, how was your client dinner last night? Amanda didn't miss a beat. Boring. You know how these pharmaceutical reps are, all charts and statistics. We barely finished before midnight. Pharmaceutical reps. I thought Henderson PR only handled restaurants and retail. She paused, fork halfway to her mouth. We're expanding our client base. That's great, honey. What company? Meridian Medical. The lie rolled off her tongue like she'd practiced it. They're launching a new arthritis medication. I nodded and smiled, filing away another piece of evidence. There was no Meridian Medical. I'd checked. After dinner, we walked through downtown. The streets were busy with Saturday night crowds, couples holding hands, groups of friends bar hopping, teenagers trying to look older than they were. Everyone seemed happy except us. Danny, Amanda said suddenly, are we okay? I stopped walking. For a moment, I thought about telling her everything, about the emails, the surveillance, the loneliness that had been eating me alive for months. Maybe we could work it out. Maybe she'd choose me over Brad. Then I remembered the condoms, the lingerie, the way she'd kissed my forehead like I was a child she was humoring. We're fine, I said. Why wouldn't we be? She studied my face in the streetlight. You've been distant lately, distracted. Work's been stressful. Is that all? I took her hand and squeezed it. Her wedding ring felt loose on her finger. She'd lost weight recently, probably from all the excitement of sneaking around. That's all, I lied. We walked home in silence, both of us pretending everything was normal. But I could feel the tension crackling between us like electricity before a storm. That night, while Amanda showered, I checked her phone. She'd changed her passcode, but I knew her well enough to guess it. Brad's birthday. 57 new messages, all from Brad. He was panicking about Jennifer's questions, demanding that Amanda meet him tomorrow to figure out their next move. The last message was sent 20 minutes ago. We need to talk. Noon tomorrow, at the usual place. The usual place. I pulled up their email history and cross-referenced locations. The Riverside Inn, room 237. They'd been meeting there every Sunday for 2 months. Perfect. I had 24 hours to prepare a welcome party they'd never forget. But first, I needed to make a phone call. Ray, it's Danny. I need a favor. Dawned. Sunday morning, Amanda announced she was going shopping with her sister Lisa. Another lie. Lisa lived in Phoenix and hadn't visited in 2 years. But I played along, kissing her goodbye and wishing her a fun day. I might stop by the office afterward, she added. Catch up on some paperwork. On Sunday? You know how it is. The client presentation is Monday, and I want everything perfect. I watched her drive away, then called Ray back. You sure about this, Danny? His voice was concerned. Once you go down this road, there's no coming back. I'm sure. All right, but we do this my way, clean and smart. No one gets hurt, and nothing comes back to bite you in the ass. Ray arrived an hour later with 2 other guys from the gym, Tommy Breslin and Mike Santos. Both were built like brick walls and owed Ray favors from their amateur boxing days. Here's the plan, Ray explained as we sat around my kitchen table. We go to the hotel, wait for them to get comfortable, then knock on the door. Tommy and Mike stay in the hallway to make sure no one interrupts. You and I have a conversation with the happy couple. What kind of conversation? Ray smiled, but it wasn't friendly. The kind where they realize their fun is over. We arrived at the Riverside Inn at 11:30. I'd called ahead and spoken to the desk clerk, a college kid named Jason who was more interested in his phone than hotel security. Yeah, room 237 is occupied, he'd confirmed. Checked in about an hour ago. Seemed like they were in a hurry. I bet they were. Ray positioned Tommy and Mike at opposite ends of the hallway while we waited by the elevator. At exactly noon, I knocked on the door of room 237. Housekeeping, I called in a high voice. We didn't order housekeeping, Brad's voice replied. He sounded irritated. Complimentary champagne service. Footsteps approached the door. I heard the security chain rattle, then the deadbolt turn. Brad opened the door wearing nothing but a hotel bathrobe, his hair disheveled and his face flushed. His expression changed from annoyance to shock to terror in about 2 seconds. Hello, Brad, I said, pushing past him into the room. Ray followed, closing the door behind us. Amanda was sitting on the bed in her black lingerie, the same set I'd bought her for Valentine's Day. She grabbed a sheet to cover herself, but it was too late. I'd already seen everything. The champagne bottle on the nightstand, the scattered clothes, the massage oil on the dresser. Danny, she gasped, what are you doing here? I could ask you the same question. I looked around the room, taking in every sordid detail. But I think the answer's pretty obvious. Brad tried to step between us, puffing out his chest like he was some kind of tough guy. Look, man, We can work this out. Ray grabbed Brad by the throat and pushed him against the wall. Shut up. The grown-ups are talking. Please don't hurt him, Amanda begged. Danny, I can explain. Explain what? I sat down in the room's single chair, making myself comfortable. Explain how you've been screwing my wife for 2 months. Explain how you've been lying to your wife Jennifer while she works night shifts to support your family. Explain how you thought you were so much smarter than the stupid IT guy who set up your company's computer system. Brad's face went white. You've been reading our emails, and every single one, including the ones where you called me a pathetic loser, and Amanda agreed that she was settling when she married me. Amanda started crying, but I felt nothing. No sympathy, no regret, no love, just cold, calculating anger. Here's what's going to happen, I continued. You're both going to get dressed, go home to your respective spouses, and end this little affair. If I ever see you together again, if I ever find out you're still in contact, I'll make sure everyone in this town knows exactly what kind of people you are. You can't prove anything, Brad said, but his voice shook.
Her name is saved as electrician. You've been calling the electrician at midnight for 4 months.
How stupid do you think I am?
Watch more on Grammarly.com.
I pulled out my phone and showed him the screen. I can prove everything. Photos, emails, hotel receipts, GPS tracking data. I've got enough evidence to destroy both your careers and your marriages. Danny, please, Amanda whispered. I love you. This was just a mistake. A mistake? I laughed, and the sound surprised me. It was harsh and bitter, nothing like my usual laugh. A mistake is forgetting to pick up milk at the store. This is betrayal. Ray released Brad, who slumped against the wall, rubbing his throat. Get dressed, Ray ordered. Both of you, this party's over. They scrambled to put on their clothes, while Ray and I watched. Amanda kept trying to catch my eye, probably hoping to see some sign that I still cared enough to forgive her. But I was done caring. I was done being the understanding husband who made excuses for his wife's behavior. One more thing, I said as they finished dressing. Brad, you're going to quit your job at Henderson PR. Find something else, somewhere else. I don't want you within a mile of my wife. I can't just quit. Then you'll be fired. I'm sure your boss would be very interested to know that you've been using company time and resources to conduct an affair with a married coworker. Brad's shoulders sagged in defeat. He knew I had him. Amanda walked toward me, her makeup smeared and her hair a mess. Danny, we need to talk. Privately. We'll talk at home, after you've had time to think about what you've done. She nodded and headed for the door. Brad followed, avoiding eye contact with everyone. Oh, and Brad, I called after him. Give Jennifer my regards. Tell her she deserves better. After they left, Ray clapped me on the shoulder. Feel better? I thought about it. Did I feel better? Amanda was humiliated. Brad was terrified, and their affair was over. But I didn't feel satisfied. I felt empty. Not yet, I said, but I will. The next few weeks were the strangest of my life. Amanda tried everything to win me back, cooking my favorite meals, buying me gifts, even suggesting we take a second honeymoon to reconnect. But every time she touched me, all I could think about was her hands on Brad's body. Brad quit Henderson PR without giving notice, claiming a family emergency required him to move out of state. Amanda's coworkers gossiped about his sudden departure, but no one suspected the truth, yet. I went back to my normal routine: work, gym, home. But everything felt different. I was different. The shy, accommodating husband Amanda had married was gone, replaced by someone harder and more calculating. My son Max noticed the change first. Dad, are you okay? He asked one evening while we watched TV. Amanda was upstairs, probably crying into her pillow again. I'm fine, son. Why? You seem, I don't know, angry all the time. I looked at my 17-year-old boy, trying to decide how much truth he could handle. Max was smart. He'd probably figured out that his parents' marriage was in trouble. Sometimes adults go through difficult periods, I said carefully, but it's nothing for you to worry about. He nodded, but I could tell he wasn't convinced. 2 weeks after the hotel confrontation, Jennifer called me at work. Mr. Thompson, this is Jennifer Walsh, Brad's wife. I think we need to talk. My stomach dropped. About what? About why my husband suddenly quit his job and wants to move to another state. About why he's been acting guilty and paranoid for weeks. About why your wife keeps calling our house and hanging up when I answer. Amanda was still trying to contact Brad. Even after everything, she couldn't let go. I think you should come over, Jennifer continued. Brad's at his mother's house for the weekend. We can speak privately. I drove to the Walsh house that evening, not sure what to expect. Jennifer was a small woman, with tired eyes and graying hair. She worked as a nurse at City General, pulling double shifts to support Brad's real estate career. She invited me into her living room and offered coffee, which I accepted. We sat across from each other like negotiators, preparing for a difficult treaty. I know about the affair, she said without preamble. I've known for weeks, but I needed proof before I did anything about it. What kind of proof? She handed me a manila folder. Inside were printouts of hotel receipts, credit card statements, and photographs taken with a telephoto lens. Jennifer had been conducting her own investigation. I hired a private detective, she explained. Cost me $3,000, but it was worth it to know the truth. I studied the photographs. There was Amanda entering the Riverside Inn, Brad following 5 minutes later, both of them leaving the next morning looking disheveled and satisfied. What do you plan to do with these? I asked. That depends on you. Jennifer leaned forward, her expression intense. I want them both to pay for what they've done. Not just to us, but to our families, our children. But I need your help. What did you have in mind? She smiled, and for the first time since I'd met her, Jennifer looked genuinely happy. I want to destroy them, professionally, socially, completely. I want everyone in this town to know exactly what kind of people they are. I thought about Amanda crying herself to sleep every night, about Brad fleeing town like a coward, about the empty feeling in my chest where love used to live. I'm listening. Jennifer's plan was brilliant in its simplicity. She'd already done most of the groundwork, documenting the affair, gathering evidence, identifying key people in Amanda's social and professional circles. The Henderson PR Christmas party is next month, she explained. Everyone will be there. Clients, employees, their spouses. It's the perfect opportunity to make our revelation public. How? Leave that to me. I just need you to make sure Amanda attends. Over the next 3 weeks, I played the role of the reconciling husband. I took Amanda out to dinner, bought her flowers, and even suggested we start marriage counseling. She was so relieved that I seemed to be forgiving her that she never questioned my motives. I'm so glad we're working things out, she said one evening as we cuddled on the couch. I was afraid I'd lost you forever. We all make mistakes, I replied, stroking her hair. The important thing is that we learn from them. She had no idea what was coming. The Henderson PR Christmas party was held at the Marriott downtown, the same hotel where Amanda claimed to have had her first client dinner with Brad. The irony wasn't lost on me. Amanda spent hours getting ready, trying on 3 different dresses before settling on a blue cocktail dress that showed off her figure. She wanted to look perfect for her colleagues, to prove that her marriage was solid, despite Brad's mysterious departure. You look beautiful, I told her, and meant it. Amanda was still an attractive woman at 43. It was her character that had turned ugly. We arrived at the party fashionably late. The hotel ballroom was decorated with Christmas lights and fake snow, and a jazz band played holiday standards in the corner. Amanda's co-workers greeted us warmly, commenting on how happy we looked together. Danny, called out Mr. Henderson, Amanda's boss. Great to see you. Amanda's been telling us how supportive you've been during this transition period. Transition period? With Brad leaving so suddenly. It's been hard on everyone, but Amanda's really stepped up to handle his accounts. I nodded and smiled, playing the supportive husband role to perfection. The evening progressed normally for the first hour. People mingled, drank champagne, and made small talk about year-end bonuses and vacation plans. Amanda relaxed, laughing with her coworkers and introducing me to new clients. Then Jennifer arrived. She looked different. Her hair was styled, she wore makeup, and her red dress was elegant and expensive. She walked into the ballroom like she belonged there, carrying a small gift bag and wearing a confident smile. Excuse me, she said, approaching the microphone where the band had been playing. Could I have everyone's attention, please? The room quieted. Amanda froze beside me, her champagne glass halfway to her lips. My name is Jennifer Walsh, she continued. Some of you might remember my husband Brad, who used to work here. He left quite suddenly a few weeks ago. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. Amanda grabbed my arm, her nails digging into my skin. I wanted to share with you the reason for his departure, Jennifer said, her voice clear and strong. You see, Brad was having an affair with one of his coworkers. They'd been meeting at hotels around the city for months, lying to their spouses and families, using company time and resources to conduct their relationship. The murmurs grew louder. People started looking around, trying to figure out who Jennifer was talking about. The woman he was sleeping with is here tonight, Jennifer continued. She's standing right over there, next to her husband, pretending that her marriage is fine. She pointed directly at Amanda. The ballroom erupted. People gasped, whispered, and turned to stare at us. Amanda's face went white, then red, then white again. She looked like she might faint. "That's not true," Amanda said, but her voice was barely audible over the crowd noise. Jennifer reached into her gift bag and pulled out a stack of photographs. "I have proof. Hotel receipts, photographs, email printouts. Would anyone like to see them?" "Stop," Amanda whispered. "Please stop." But Jennifer wasn't finished. "I also have recordings of phone conversations between Brad and this woman, discussing their plans to leave their spouses and start a new life together. Would you like to hear those too?" I looked around the room. Amanda's coworkers were staring at her with expressions ranging from shock to disgust. Mr. Henderson looked like he wanted to disappear into the floor. The clients were whispering among themselves, probably wondering what kind of company they'd hired for their PR needs. "Danny," Amanda turned to me, tears streaming down her face. "Say something. Tell them it's not true." I looked at my wife, really looked at her, for what felt like the first time in years. She was beautiful, successful, and completely without conscience. She'd betrayed me, lied to me, and humiliated me. And now she wanted me to save her from the consequences. "I can't do that, Amanda," I said quietly, "because it is true." So the room fell silent, except for the sound of Amanda's sobbing. Jennifer smiled at me across the crowd, a look of perfect understanding passing between us. We'd both gotten what we wanted: justice, revenge, and the satisfaction of watching our cheating spouses face the consequences of their actions. Amanda ran from the ballroom, pushing through the crowd of her former colleagues and clients. I didn't follow her. Instead, I walked over to Jennifer and shook her hand. "Thank you," I said. "Thank you," she replied. "I couldn't have done it without your help." So rooms alone that night, leaving Amanda to find her own way back. She was sitting in the kitchen when I arrived, still wearing her blue dress, but looking like a completely different person. "How could you do that to me?" she asked. "In front of everyone I work with?" "I didn't do anything," I replied calmly. "Jennifer did. I just didn't stop her. You planned this. You and that woman planned to humiliate me. Like you and Brad planned to humiliate me. Like you planned to sneak around behind my back for months, laughing about what a pathetic loser your husband was." Amanda started crying again, but I felt no sympathy. The woman I'd married, or thought I'd married, had never existed. This selfish, manipulative person was who she'd always been. "What happens now?" she asked. I sat down across from her at the kitchen table where we'd shared thousands of meals over the years. "Now you pack your things and leave. I'll file for divorce on Monday. You can keep the Lexus. It's in your name anyway. But the house is mine." "Danny, please. We can work this out." "No, we can't. This isn't about the affair, Amanda. It's about who you really are, and I finally see you clearly." She left the next morning, taking only her clothes and personal items. Max helped her load the car, his face carefully neutral. He was old enough to understand what had happened, even if we hadn't told him the details. "Will the first see you again?" Amanda asked as she prepared to drive away. "At the divorce proceedings," I replied. "Other than that, I hope not." She drove away without looking back. That evening, I sat in my garage with a beer, working on the Honda's engine. The house felt different, emptier but somehow cleaner, like a poison had been removed from the air. My phone rang. It was Jennifer. "How are you holding up?" she asked. "Better than expected. You?" "The same. Brad came home this morning, begging for forgiveness. I told him to pack his things and get out." "Good for you. I wanted to thank you again, for helping me, for being there when I needed an ally." We helped each other. There was a pause. "Would you like to have coffee sometime? Just as friends? I think we both understand what the other has been through." I considered the offer. Jennifer was a good woman who'd been betrayed by someone she trusted. We had that in common. Maybe friendship was possible. Maybe even something more eventually. But not yet. I had healing to do first. "I'd like that," I said. "But let's give it some time. We both need to figure out who we are without them." "I understand. But Danny, when you're ready, call me." I'll be here. After we hung up, I went back to working on the engine. For the first time in months, maybe years, I felt something like peace. Amanda was gone, Brad was gone, and the lies that had poisoned my life were finally exposed. I was free. 2 weeks later, I heard through mutual friends that Amanda had been fired from Henderson PR. The scandal had cost them several major clients, and Mr. Henderson decided she was too much of a liability to keep on staff. Brad had moved back in with his mother in another state, his real estate career effectively over. They'd both gotten exactly what they deserved. I never saw Amanda again after that morning when she drove away. The divorce was finalized 6 months later. She didn't contest anything, probably hoping to minimize further public humiliation. Max chose to stay with me, and we developed a closer relationship than we'd ever had before. On the anniversary of that night at the Riverside Inn, I drove past the hotel and saw that it had been torn down to make room for a shopping center. It seemed fitting somehow, the scene of their betrayal erased, replaced by something new and useful. I kept Jennifer's number in my phone, but never called. Some wounds need time to heal completely before you can risk opening your heart again. Maybe someday we'd have that coffee, maybe something more. But for now, I was content to be alone, to rebuild my life on my own terms. The last I heard, Amanda was working as a receptionist at a dental office in another city. Her PR career destroyed by the scandal. Brad was selling used cars at his brother-in-law's lot, a far cry from the luxury real estate deals he used to brag about. Justice had been served. Revenge had been taken, and I'd learned something important about myself in the process. I wasn't the weak, accommodating man I'd thought I was. When pushed far enough, I could push back just as hard, and I could live with the consequences.